A learned leader, education is often a talking point for peers and a selling point to voters. However, in this case, Kakuei Tanaka, neither were the pillars to his success, as he dropped out of school at the age of 15 to later become one of Japan's most esteemed prime ministers to date. While numerous reputable sources have conflicting timetables and dates, here's his story in a nutshell. Born on the 16th of December 1918 in Niigata Prefecture, famous for its vast nature, low population density, and dazzling ski slopes to farmers, Tanaka was one of 7 siblings who at a young age was dealt the hardship of poverty his family faced as a result of a failed import venture his father had merged. Many kids want to be kids. However, in an unselfish act to aid his family's financial woes, Tanaka dropped out of school and worked odd jobs to contribute to the household. One of his many admirable traits displayed in his youth. Tanaka was always keen, and in a chance encounter on an elevator in 1937, while running an errand for a construction firm to which he was employed with part-time, Tanaka caught the attention of Riken Corporation CEO Masatoshi Okochi, who took a likeness to Tanaka and invited him to work at his Tokyo's architectural firm. This would change Tanaka's fate for years to come. This was a time in Japan where architects did not have a licensed body. A young Tanaka would work and also attended vocational school in the evenings where he had learned different disciplines pertaining to construction. The job with Oguchi was short-lived, as Tanaka was called to serve in the army, where he only served 2 years and was promoted to corporal after initially working as a clerk. However, Tanaka got pneumonia, forcing him to return to Japan. Tanaka further opted not to re-enlist in the army and enter back into the workplace, where he landed a gig at Sakamoto's civil engineering firm, where the ambitious Tanaka readied his plan to start his own firm, but to his astonishment got an offer that he could not refuse from a company president who not only offered Tanaka his company, but in addition his daughter Hana Sakamoto's hand in marriage. 1941 was the year that Tanaka's status climbed. A year in, Tanaka renamed the company Tanaka Civil Engineering and Construction Industries. Later, his son Masanori was born, and in 1944, 2 years later, his daughter Makiko, who is a current politician in Niigata, was birthed. Good fortune would always follow Tanaka. 1945, months before the war, he traveled overseas to cash out today's equivalent of $15 billion, billion yen I should say, worth of Japanese bonds. And during the war, World War II that is, as luck would have it, none of his buildings were damaged during air raids. Returning to Niigata in 1946, but it wasn't until 1947 that Tanaka was able to get his beak wet in politics as a member of the Diet, Japanese Congress, as a member for the Minshuto, loosely translated the New Democratic Party. It was then Tanaka sparked up a friendship with Kenjiro Shidehara, who brought Tanaka over to the Democratic Liberal Party after Shidehara's party defected. Shigeru Yoshida, the then ruling member of the DLP, instantly gravitated towards Tanaka, who was given a ministerial position at that time, making Tanaka the youngest vice deputy minister in Japanese history. This was in 1948. However, as fate would have it, December of that year, Tanaka was detained for bribery in the excess of 1 million yen, causing the DLP to wash their hands and refusing to support him in any future political endeavors. A defiant Tanaka continued his campaign nonetheless and was later released from detention 2 months later, after the conditions of his bail were secure. Tanaka won his seat and used it as a bartering measure to have his membership in the DLP reinstated. As time would go by, the court found Tanaka guilty of the bribery charges in 1950, a decision in which Tanaka appealed. During this time, Tanaka's business acumen, coupled with the luck of the draw, enabled him to take a failing railroad, Nagaoka Railroad, which connected Niigata to Tokyo, back into life, making it profitable and a reputable railway in 1951. Tanaka would later win the election of that year by a huge margin, collectively being that rail workers eagerly campaigned for him and garnering the backing of billionaire Kenji Osano, who would become one of Tanaka's most loyal backers to the death. In yet another consolidation of power, Tanaka became a member of the now famed LDP, a Liberal Democratic Party. In 1955, when the then Prime Minister Nobusuke Kishi won the election in 1957, Tanaka was given the Minister of Telecommunication post. People naturally gravitated towards Tanaka as he forged a friendship with future Prime Minister Sato. Sato would eventually become Prime Minister in 1965, where he appointed Tanaka General Secretary of the party. However, a scandal was in the whirlwind. What was dubbed the Black Mist Scandal, Tanaka was accused of dodgy real estate acquisitions in Tokyo, which forced Sato to give the appointment to Takeo Fukuda. Tanaka was able to bounce back, as the public loved him, and reflected this in the 1967 general election. In a U-turn, Sato reappointed him as General Secretary and Minister of International Trade and Industry. It's often said that leaders are born, not made. The statement proves true. The case of Tanaka, who would go on to facilitate the return of Okinawa to Japan and leverage equal trade caps, not bad for a dropout, what many would consider a junior high school education. However, what Tanaka learned from the school of life turned out to be priceless. Sato favored Fukuda to succeed him. However, they could not deny Tanaka's popularity amongst the masses and within the party, as Tanaka would go on to defeat Fukuda for the presidential role within the LDP. Tanaka would have one of the highest approval ratings in Japanese politics, as he would go on to enact free healthcare for the elderly, medical compensation for families, and child allowances. Tanaka, in 1974, was accused of stacking the deck, as he has acquired land for public works being done before them. It was found to be above board. Nonetheless, it did not stop members from his own party from spearheading an inquiry and calling the wife of former Prime Minister Sato as a star witness. Tanaka, in gentleman form, opted to step down rather than have Sato's wife face the firing squad in November of 1974. Tanaka's problems deepened as in 1976, Lockheed Martin's corporation CEO told U.S. Senate that, as Prime Minister, Tanaka accepted $1.8 million in bribes in exchange to have ANA, All Nippon Airline, buy their aircrafts sometime in 1962. Tanaka was subsequently arrested in Japan and released on $690,000 bail, equivalent to 200 million yen. The trial would span years, and it was not until 1983 that Tanaka was found guilty, ordered to pay 500 million yen in fines and do 4 years confinement, all while he was still a sit-in member of the Diet. He appealed the decision while free on bail, something you only read about in books or watch in movies. Tanaka's power base would wane. However, his daughter stayed by his side as he later suffered a stroke. He would later retain his seat in 1986 and made a public appearance in 1987 where his facial features were gravely disfigured. Tanaka's appeal was upheld by the courts, and he would go on to post bail again and appeal his conviction. Tanaka's health condition further deteriorated at the age of 71, where he ended his 42-year-long political career. His appeal would float around in the sky until his passing in December of 1993. Tanaka was famously quoted saying, "Politics is a number. Number is politics. Power is money," would be his legacy spoken into the universe. Not bad for a boy that dropped out of school at 15.
Oh my, yeah.